Let's do it.
We are live.
All right. What is up, y'all? It's Dante and Ryan back at it with the college football betting hour. We ended last season on an absolute heater. I looked it up right before we got started, and we went 10-2 to finish out bowl season. So did pretty dang good. Looking to start off this season hot as well. We're gonna be going over week 0, on my personal top 25 compared to the AP top 25, and all the big matchups for this week. And at the end, we'll give out all of our picks. So let's get this started.
Let's
First
do
off,
it.
we got Vandy versus Hawaii. The game ended 63-10 in favor of the SEC last place bottom dwellers, Vanderbilt. Not that surprising to me, honestly. If you knew about Hawaii heading into this game, first year head coach.
Not that
the-
surprising to me, honestly. If you knew about Hawaii heading into this game, first year head coach.
Yeah, you're echoing
Not that
badly.
surprising to me, honestly. If you knew.
Is that you?
No, that's you. You got to close out your YouTube tab.
I don't even have it up.
Oh, well, I don't
Yeah,
either.
Continue.
Yeah,
If you
so
knew about Hawaii,
I didn't think this game was going to be very close. I had Vandy minus 9.5. Clark Lee had them really fired up. He's their new head coach. But the main takeaway from this for me was how much faster Vanderbilt was than Hawaii. Hawaii, like their closing speed on defense was so bad. They were getting to guys. They weren't able to like wrap up though. And Vandy was getting 5-6 extra yards like every single play. Mike Wright isn't a good quarterback at all. I mean, his passes lacked zip. He really had nothing going for him in terms of passing, but he's pretty fast, and he was able to outrun Hawaii's defense extremely easily. So that was the main takeaway for me. And did you get anything out of this game?
no, I probably watched like the first quarter of this game. The only thing I kept thinking about was that Vanderbilt's win total on the season was 2, and they were just beating the shit out of Hawaii. So I was looking at it just like there's no way the line was this off on them. Maybe like I'm thinking people now are probably overreacting to what they saw, especially because it's the first football they've seen in so long. But no, I mean, both of these teams, there's not much to take away from it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Week 0 had a very bad slate, just super boring. Then the other game was Nebraska versus Northwestern, the only other game that really had any sort of like implications. I guess Wyoming, Illinois kind of did too, but that game was super boring. The Nebraska Northwestern game, however, was very good. It was very entertaining. Went down to the wire. The main takeaway for me was that Scott Frost is an idiot. I know everyone's been saying it all week, but it's just true. You're up 11 points and you onside kick because you want to put him away. You're like midway through the third quarter. Recovering that onside kick really wouldn't do too much, in my opinion, with that much game left. Their front seven was awful. Nebraska's was. I thought they were going to be much better. They have a good amount of talent. Like all their guys are 4-star recruits, pretty highly touted players. They only tallied 8 total pressures, and they got no sacks and no hits. So I think that was the big L for them. Only Colton Feast on their front seven was above average in stop percentage and average step per tackle. So he was good against the run and pass. Quick shout out to him because he was really the only one who showed up. Compared to Northwestern, they had 4 players with 3 or more pressures, and 3 of which had a win rate of 15% or better. So Northwestern was getting to Casey, getting around that Nebraska offensive line, and it obviously paid dividends. Northwestern kept Nebraska on their heels and had a really smart game plan for their quarterback, Helinski. He was towards the bottom of my quarterback rankings for Power 5. He might have honestly been dead last because he is just god-awful. However, his average depth of target for this last game was only 7.3 yards down the field, so they really got the offense simplified for him. They worked around him, and it obviously paid dividends. They were able to get that safety to bite on that big play action, which led to a touchdown. He was wide open. So Northwestern came up with a really good game plan. That's what Pat Fitzgerald does. He's been doing it for years now, and it paid off. They were 13-point underdogs, won outright. And the other thing was that Casey Thompson does not have the it factor. He had some really good plays in the first half, but eventually tailed off and was not able to capitalize when it mattered most.
Yeah, it had that one circus play. But, I mean, the first thing you said, Scott Frost is an idiot. That's pretty much all you need to say. This team loses every single close game that they're in. It's almost impossible to lose the way they do, dating back to last year. I like the idea of Nebraska coming into the season because I know Frost took a pay cut, basically like begged to keep his job. Let them like amplify the coaching staffs on both offense and defense, and then you just fucking come out with that dog shit. The onside kick made no sense. It wasn't even one of those things where it was like if you recover it, you look smart. Like there's a whole half of football left. I get the momentum factor, but the risk is not worth the reward there. You still have to play for at least 18 minutes. I don't even remember how much time was left, but
I think it was more than 20. There was a
20,
lot of
so
football left, and it made zero sense.
yeah, and you just opened the door for them to come back. Northwestern's offensive line looked like the Browns' offensive line last year, just like absolute brick wall, Great Wall of China, whatever the fuck you want to call them. Nebraska couldn't generate any pressure, which makes it – I don't care who's at quarterback. Helinski, fucking Baker Mayfield with one shoulder, it does not matter. You're not going to get off the field if you can't get pressure.
Yeah, 100%. And Peter Skoronski was pretty notoriously the player of week 0, Northwestern's left tackle. He's been highly touted, arguably the best left tackle in the nation. I know a lot of people think he's the best player in next year's draft class in general, which is a lot. That's very high praise. But he had a very good game. He's an extremely quick tackle, and his pad level is fantastic. He gets to the second level, and he just bodies linebackers. And he showed it off last game and was a big factor in Northwestern's big win. Moving on to the top 25.
He's good, but damn.
Yeah, he's really good, but I think there are a couple players that have him beat pretty easily in my eyes. So top 25. I tweeted out a top 25 last weekend before the games began, but that was like really rushed. I was camping and didn't really have a ton of time, and I was kind of like, dang, it's already college football, so I kind of rushed it. Made some changes to it, so a little bit better in my opinion now. Starting off with Alabama at number 1, Ohio State at number 2, Utah number 3, Clemson 4, Georgia 5, Notre Dame 6, Michigan 7, Kansas State 8, Oregon 9, Wisconsin 10, Pitt 11, Oklahoma 12, North Carolina State 13, Florida State 14, USC 15, Oklahoma State 16, Maryland 17, Michigan State 18, Texas A&M 19, Miami 20, Arkansas 21, Kentucky 22, Houston 23, Iowa 24, and BYU at number 25. I believe there are 3 teams that I've ranked that the AP poll doesn't have ranked, and those 3 are Kansas State, Florida State, and Maryland. There might be a couple more, but I know those are the 3 teams that I'm much higher on than the consensus.
You have Kansas State at 10, and they're not even on the AP poll?
At 8, yeah. In my opinion, the Big 12 is by far the most open conference this season. It makes zero sense.
I thought it looked like a down year kind of, and then for the Big 12, and then the more I look at it, I'm just like, damn, it's not really a down year. It's just pretty competitive, like super competitive.
I would give them a 0% chance to put a team in the playoff.
Oklahoma plus 400. Oklahoma is like plus 450 to make the playoffs, and they're the favorite in the conference. So it tells you what you need to know.
Yeah, see, Oklahoma, people love to hype up their receiving core, led by Marvin Mims and Theo Weiss. I don't really think they're that good. Like they're legit, but compared to some of these other teams, I don't think they really have it. Dylan Gabriel is good, but making that jump to Power 5 might be a little bit different. Different coaching staff. The players weren't really recruited to play defense like Brent Venables wants to. So it's going to be a little bit different of a scheme for them. I think it takes some time for them to adjust. Kansas State, in my opinion, has the best offensive player and best defensive player in the conference. They're really well coached, and Chris Kleiman always gets the best out of his quarterbacks. Skylar Thompson was an elite college quarterback. He just couldn't stay healthy. If he stayed healthy, he could have been an absolute dog, and Kansas State would have been a very good program. And now they get Adrian Martinez, a guy who has talent, just kind of needs to limit those turnovers. I think Chris Kleiman is the perfect fit for him to do that. They have a good receiving corps. Malik Knowles is an electric player, and obviously you got Deuce Vaughn and Felix Abbott. I don't know how to say his last name. And Duque, he's their defensive end. He led the nation in sacks last year. He's coming back, so that's another big comeback for them. So I'm really high in Kansas State this year. Their cornerback duo is nice as well. And in a year that the Big 12 is kind of wide open, I went bold and got them going 11-2, winning the conference.
Sheesh. I got the thing I do like about Oklahoma, going back to them, I like Gabriel just making that transition. This is probably the conference you want to be in as far as like defenses you're going to face.
Yeah.
And he's teamed up with his old OC from UCF, I think. Forgot the dude's name. But he's been with this coach before. They want to run that same style offense, get up and down the field quick. If you're going to go 3 and out, it's going to take 40 seconds off the clock. The only thing is for Brett, this is going to be the least talent he's had to work with in a long time, at least defensively. And that's just the thing about Oklahoma. Every year, that they're going to be able to score. I think they averaged like over 35 points a game last year offensively, and they gave up like 28. So you bring in a defensive-minded head coach, one that is assumed to be a good coach, how much can he do there? How much can he do in the first year? A lot of these guys aren't his recruits, so it's going to be wait and see for me with Oklahoma.
Yeah. So bringing in Jeff Lebby, he was Gabriel's
Lebby,
offensive coordinator at UCF, but he was also Ole Miss's offensive coordinator last season. But the thing that really stuck out to me was that Ole Miss team, they like to run the ball. They had 3 or 4 backs that they can give the ball to consistently, and that kind of open up the passing attack. This Oklahoma team doesn't have that many running backs. They got one guy. They got Eric Gray, who, granted, is a very good receiving back. I think he has over 1,000 receiving yards throughout his time at Tennessee and Oklahoma. So he's a very versatile back. But the whole point of that Jeff Lebby offense was the fact they were able to just rotate guys in and out and not lose any snaps. Eric Gray isn't going to be a workhorse back for them, which has me worried about them in the later parts of the season. And with Gabriel having too much pressure on him to throw the ball, he's obviously very injury prone. You never really know what can happen there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think we know that they'll be able to move the ball in the air, but there's points of every game where you need to be able to put the ball on the ground and get first down. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, no doubt. So that was my top 25.
Wait, I got more questions. I got more questions about the top 25.
Let's hear it.
You being the diehard Utah fan you are, how much bias is in number 3? If there's 0, tell me.
I would say a tad bit. But like Georgia, I think Nakobe Dean being gone is the biggest thing for them, and he's one of those players that you just can't recreate in 1 year. He was a stud in coverage. He was a stud against the run. He can rush the passer, and he was kind of the engine that made that Georgia defense work. While I think they'll still be really good, I don't think they'll be anywhere near as good, as talented as that team was last year. Notre Dame, very good team, but the schedule's a little bit tough this year. I mean, they got to go to USC. They got to open up at Ohio State. They got to play Clemson at home. So I don't see them winning that many of their games. I have Utah at 12-1, winning the conference, and I don't think that's too much of a stretch. I think this weekend is the second hardest game on the schedule, first being at Oregon. Oregon's got a nasty front seven that they're the only team I'm really worried about out physicaling us. Like Utah's whole thing is being tough in the trenches and kind of going from there. Oregon is the only team, in my opinion, on this schedule that can out Utah. So I have us losing that game, but winning the rest. 12-1, I think, is a very real prediction. I have Ohio State at 12-1 as well. I have Clemson at 12-1, I believe, and Alabama the only undefeated team. So with Utah being a 12-1 conference champion with a win on the road against the SEC team, beating what should be a top 15 USC team, going on the road, beating a UCLA team who will probably be undefeated going into that game, looking at how easy their schedule is. I think 12-1 for Utah is not a stretch. And the number 3 ranking, I think they'll be ahead of Clemson if Clemson were to be 12-1 as well, because Utah is going to be able to get those style points against lesser competition and be able to beat teams 48-3, whereas Clemson's probably sneaking out a couple like 24-13 wins against inferior opponents.
Clemson I'm totally out on until I see, like, DJ has to prove it to me. Georgia lose so much talent on the defense. Not saying that they're probably full of studs still, that we just don't know them yet.
But no, they are for sure. I mean, Nolan Smith is arguably the best defensive end in the nation. I don't think he's anywhere close to that, but in terms of just pure talent, he's up there. And Jalen Carter is arguably the best defensive tackle prospect that we've seen come out of college ever. He's an absolute stud, and he's all they really need to be able to stop the run. So they still got some good talent.
They have an easy schedule.
They do have a very easy schedule. That was the other thing. I remember looking at them and thinking, man, I really want to pick against this team because I just don't think they're as good as that team was last year. But it was like there's not really many games on the schedule that you can pick against. I don't know which one I had them losing.
They're a double-digit favorite in every game.
Yeah, maybe the Kentucky game, they'll be like 7-point favorites. But other than that, they should be pretty big favorites in most games.
Yeah. I draw the line at Notre Dame. Like I'll put I think Utah at worst. Me, like, not seeing a lot of these teams yet, obviously it's kind of hard, but just off like what's going on in my head, I'd probably put Utah right there ahead of Notre Dame, but just give Georgia and Clemson a little bit benefit of the doubt. I think Clemson's defense is insane, and obviously Georgia too.
It is.
So I mean, we'll see. But I root for Utah just basically because of you. But
yeah, I mean, I actually had the exact same playoff prediction as David Pollock of ESPN. He was the only one that I was like that I would even bother listening to. Like Desmond Howard is an absolute idiot. His playoff prediction was, I think it was Baylor, Michigan, Texas A&M, and Pitt. And he had
I thought he was trolling,
winning it all. No, I mean he probably is getting a little bit of money to just act like an idiot because that's how he is. Like his predictions always blow. But
did you see? what's his name? Lee Corso. Kind of sad.
I mean, yeah, he's kind of been on one for the last few years. It's sad to see, but I mean,
Reminds me of
he's what makes the show go. I was thinking about it earlier this week, and I was saying to myself, when he leaves, I mean, there's really no point to watch College Game Day for me because I think Big Noon does a much better job with Urban Meyer returning. They got Joel Klatt, who's a much better analyst than anyone on ESPN. There's really no reason to watch College Game Day when Lee Corso leaves. There just isn't. Like if they were coming into my school, if they were coming to Utah and doing a show here, I would obviously show up in person because it's the experience and it's a big deal. But in terms of like what I need to know, I mean,
information.
I think I have more information than any of they do on TV.
100%.
Honestly,
that's why we call you PFF.
right? Yeah, exactly. You got any more questions?
Is he coaching again?
Who's that?
Urban.
No.
Don't think so?
No.
I saw a tweet that if Urban Meyer was the coach of Nebraska, they would be in the playoffs within, I think, 3 years, it said.
Yeah, I mean, if he took the head coaching job at USC, they'd be my favorite to win the national championship, but he didn't.
Damn. That's bold.
He's just that good of a coach. He's a college coach. That's what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he made Utah what they are today. Without him, we would probably still be in the Mountain West. So I always got respect for Urban.
Just got to keep him to himself.
Any more questions about that top 25?
Nah. You're good.
No? All right. I just want to throw in there my 3 favorite futures bets for this season. I had a good amount of them, but there are 3 that I liked like blatantly more than the rest of them. And you can still get them in because none of the teams played in week 0. But it's Arizona over 3 wins. It's Kansas State over 7 wins or 6.5 wins. The line varied wherever you got it. I think I got over 7 at -130. And then the third one is my favorite. It's Maryland over 6 wins at even odds. That really made 0 sense to me.
Maryland brings back like their entire O-line, don't they?
They bring back what was the best pass blocking offensive line in the Big Ten. They got Talia back, who had a huge year. They simplified the offense for him, and I absolutely love what Mike Locksley has. And I mean, they have a receiving duo that's better than Oklahoma's. I think Dante Demas and Raheem Jarrett are 2 fantastic receivers, and they both had very good individual years. And if they could both stay healthy together, I mean, that's a Maryland receiving duo that not many teams will be able to guard. The Big Ten, in my opinion, has the best secondaries in the nation by far. But even that, I mean, I think Jarrett and Demas are both absolute studs. And with them on the outside, with them just catching passes from Talia, who they, like I said, they simplified the offense for him. Mm-hmm. I see them being a lot better. And their defense returns pretty much all their main producers as well, outside their 2 safeties.
Yeah, that line doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, especially at even. I mean, I have them at like 9-3, so I really didn't understand it.
I love looking at the Big Ten, and then when the season starts, it's just like, all right, what the fuck was I looking at?
You just watch it all crumble before you.
Yeah, everything just goes the exact opposite.
Yeah, that's how it goes. It's a hell of a conference. Probably the hardest one to predict, but like I said, Maryland's my team essentially this year. So
I like Big 12 still too because they just do it like old school. Like everybody plays everybody. The best 2 teams play each other in the fucking conference championship, and that's it.
Yeah, Pac-12 is like that now too, though. They changed it. No more divisions, which is good. I think that's a better move because you're higher chance of a team making the playoffs. It's stupid when, like, if Utah were to go 11-1 this year and USC goes 10-2 and Oregon in the other division goes 9-3 and the championship game is Utah versus Oregon. Like, that's just stupid. USC is obviously better than Oregon was, but now it's going to be the two best teams, which I still think are Oregon and Utah. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
Yeah. Moving on to week 1, really starts tomorrow.
There's good stuff.
A couple of fantastic games. First one, you got West Virginia versus Pitt, the backyard brawl, a lot of animosity, a lot of turmoil heading into this one. Keaton Slovis had a cute message for the West Virginia fans last night at their little pep rally. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. The line is Pitt -7.5. The over-under is set at 51.5. The main storyline is it's the battle of the USC transfer quarterbacks. Graham Harrell and JT Daniels both made a move to West Virginia. Keaton Slovis making the move to Pitt. These 2 quarterbacks are kind of the exact opposite of each other. Slovis is a much more accurate passer, but he doesn't really have a strong arm. Daniels, very strong arm, but needs to work on the accuracy and decision-making. He had a ton of turnover-worthy passes in his only season as a starter, and since then, there hasn't really been a big enough sample size to evaluate him entirely. I think West Virginia struggles to run the ball here. They lose Letty Brown, who had over 1,000 rushing yards for them last year, and Pitt's defensive line is pretty ridiculous. They return everyone from last year. They got 3 defensive tackles returning who had an average depth of tackle that was less than 1.4 yards down the field. That's all those marks are extremely elite, kind of ridiculous, honestly. And then West Virginia has a huge liability on their offensive line with tackle Brandon Yates. He gave up 31 pressures a season ago, and like I said, Pitt's depth on their defensive line is outstanding. They returned 5 guys who had 20 or more pressures from last season and 4 who had 5 or more sacks. So I expect JT Daniels to be under a ton of pressure here, and they're going to have a tough time moving the ball in their first game in this new air raid scheme. Kalijah Kancey is the name to know for the Pitt defensive line. He had an average depth of tackle of negative 0.3 yards last year, meaning he averaged a tackle for loss every time he stopped a running play. He had 38 pressures and 9 sacks too, meaning he can do it all. He's a little undersized for his position, only 6 feet tall, only 280 pounds, and that's for a defensive tackle. So he relies a lot on his quickness, and he's extremely aware, a very slippery player, able to get through those gaps and stop literally everything. Keaton Slovis on the other side will have plenty of time to throw the ball. Pitt returns 4 offensive linemen from what was an elite pass blocking group a season ago. Slovis's play elevates massively when he's kept clean. He's never had a season with a completion percentage under 72% when kept clean. So that's a big thing to look at. I think he's going to have all day to throw, and they do return some good pass catchers as well. Jared Wayne is a tall, lengthy receiver who can win at all 3 levels. And they also return Gavin Bartholomew, who caught 28 of his 29 targets last season. So they return a couple of guys who are consistent pass catchers, and I expect Pitt to win this game fairly easily. I got a score of 31-21. You got anything to add?
Not much. I mean, I like Pitt too. I bet them at 6.5. This opened 6.5. Over under was 54.5, and I agreed with both of the ways it moved. It went to 7.5, which I agree. I thought Pitt was a little short on that line, and then I thought the total was probably a little too high because of, like you said, I don't see a direct line to points for West Virginia. I don't know exactly where they're going to be able to score. You're not going to get pressure. Me and you are both in agreement that, I mean, well, actually, you kind of like Slovis, but I think both of these quarterbacks kind of suck. But it's life without Kenny Pickett for Pittsburgh, and I think it's going to help the defense out. They're not going to be on the field as much, in my opinion, because that was a much more explosive offense. I think if Pittsburgh wants to be successful, they're going to have to be more creative to maybe like addition by subtraction almost, like not as much scrambling, circus type of stuff, more of a standard offense. Stay on the field longer, give your defense a break. If you get that front 7 like rested every time they get on the field, you have such an advantage. So I lean with Pittsburgh here.
Yeah, no doubt. Another thing to add, Pitt, I think, is going to be a little bit more run heavy this season. They returned 3 guys who had over 500 rushing yards last season. They'll be able to establish the run, and that'll open up the passing attack, help Keenan Slovis a little bit more because he is not Kenny Pickett. That's plain and simple. He's not Kenny Pickett. He's probably not even a top 25 Power 5 quarterback this season. He's just the definition of mid. He's got good accuracy, but like I said, not the strongest arm, doesn't have a ton of zip on his passes, and he sometimes just doesn't really seem like he's all there in the head. So
I do not like Slovis, but
yeah,
for the reasons you've laid out, this game I'm not too worried about it. Obviously, when you step up in more better competition, I think running the ball will definitely be something that they need to be able to do. Just in this conference, I think that running the ball is huge because you don't see like a lot of teams really pound the rock like successfully. And I mean, I don't know, if you can run the ball and you can stop the run, you're going to set yourself up to be in every game.
Yeah, I mean, the ACC this year, I think, is the deepest conference in terms of quarterback play.
Exactly.
I mean, they're not going to be running the ball a ton, and if they are, it's going to be their quarterbacks. You got Malik Cunningham, Brennan Armstrong, a couple of great dual threat guys, and then you also got guys like Leary, Van Dyke, who will sit in the pocket and just sling it. So it's a very deep,
and it's good receivers, good athletes in this conference.
There are. North Carolina State's got a great receiving core. Joe Nada from Clemson's really good, and obviously you got the guys from Virginia and
Florida State and Miami. They're going to have
Florida State's got a great receiving core as well. I love their versatility. They got guys that can do literally everything. It's just beautiful to watch. We'll get to them later because they're a team to keep an eye on. Next game, though, tomorrow again, it's Penn State at Purdue. Purdue last year was an impossible out on the road. They knocked off what was like second ranked Iowa and like third ranked Michigan State. So they were a tough out at home. They lose their main guy, though. Their main guys, actually, George Karlaftis on the defensive end, David Bell on offense. He was a fantastic wide receiver for them for a plethora of years. However, they do get back Aiden O'Connell, who led Power 5, I think college football in general, actually, in big-time throws. So they get a playmaking quarterback returning. However, I think he's going to struggle a little bit against this elite Penn State secondary. They returned Joey Porter Jr., an experienced player who has a ton of swagger, a ton of aggression, a very highly touted cornerback who has yet to have like that big breakout season. I think this is the one. Last season he committed like 8 or 9 penalties. I think he limits that a ton this year and becomes a top 10 corner in the nation like he was supposed to be.
I have to ask, did you even watch Joey Porter?
I did, yeah. I've actually kind of been a fan of him for the last couple of years now. Like entering the COVID season, I was pretty high on him. And last year,
his dad.
oh no,
he's Joey Porter Jr. His dad was in the NFL for like 15 years.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I knew who that was.
No, obviously you watched this kid.
I thought you were asking. Like I was like, no, I like Joey Porter Jr. Like I said, I think he's got a top 10 quarterback in the nation ceiling, but I had no idea who his dad was. That's kind of funny. They also get back safety Jair Brown, who had 6 interceptions last year. Nickelback Daquan Hardy, who allowed a 41.8 passer rating when targeted. And then Kalen King, Keaton Ellis, both allowed under 40% completion percentage when targeted. So they got like 5 studs returning in their secondary. I think this is probably the second best secondary in the nation, behind Iowa. Probably, I know they're top 5 for sure. Not even a question about that. And they also have a pretty elite receiving corps. They got Parker Washington, a sure-handed slot receiver who's fantastic after the catch. Did really well last season with Jahan Dotson in that offense, but now a little bit more centered towards him. We'll see how he does. He averaged over 2 yards per route run last season as well, so that's another thing to note. But the big one, they get transfer Mitchell Tinsley from Western Kentucky. He had over 1,400 receiving yards last year, averaged 2.44 yards per route run in that Bailey Zappi-led offense. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in the Big Ten with Sean Clifford slinging him in the rock, but the talent is obviously there for him. He's great in traffic and can make guys miss in the open field. Purdue secondary was awful last year. That was the main area of concern for them. They returned some guys, but they lack a ton of depth. Last season, only 2 corners played over 105 snaps for them in coverage, which is extremely concerning when you're going up against a team with as good of a receiving corps as Penn State, because of how much depth they lack in the secondary and because of how much they lost in terms of just overall playmaking ability. I like Penn State winning this game, but they're not going to go. The Boilermakers aren't going to go out without a fight. It's a home game for them, season opener. The place will be rocking. They still have a great quarterback in Aiden O'Connell. So I got Penn State winning this game by a score of 28-23.
Yeah, any time that I see Penn State, I just tell myself I cannot bet this game. I hate James Franklin. I hate Clifford. Their defense, obviously, you can back, but the better their defense plays, the worse their offense plays.
Yep.
This team got up to like number 4 or maybe even number 2 at one point in the country last year.
Yeah,
they were like 6-0.
They obliterated Indiana and got up to number 4, I believe. They were high up there.
And then the next game, it might have been the Purdue game.
I know they lost to Illinois in 9. They lost to Illinois in 9 overtimes at home. And that was kind of where everything.
Was that where Clifford got hurt? I think so.
What happened?
I think that's where Clifford got hurt.
He played a majority of their games, though. I mean, he finished the season for them.
I remember he had like a lower body injury, and like either the game before their first loss or in that first loss, and then that's when everything went downhill.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, Purdue's losing both their both their leaders, best players on both sides of the ball. This team literally just mushed into their 2 biggest wins last year. The only reason they won those games is because everybody bet the opposite side. I'm convinced on that. You see that happen. Like, there's no way that those games should have been lined like that. I think both times they were like a 2-point favorite or some shit.
No, the Iowa game, they were underdogs by double digits. I know that for a fact.
When Iowa was
number 2 or 3, and I know the Michigan State game. Michigan State went into Boilerville, I believe, and they were 2.5-point favorites and lost by.
So it was just like such sketchy lines that you just knew. Like, you didn't even have to watch the game; you knew somehow Purdue was going to win, and they slayed both of those dragons. And then I don't know how much. Like, it's week 1. How much of that it carries over to this year and this line? I'm not touching Penn State. I'm not taking them, especially laying over a field goal on the road. Just nowhere that I'd want to be. I hope they win though.
Yeah, so do I. I kind of like Penn State this year. I'm not like super high on them, but it's very weird. The consensus is that they're supposed to be really good, but I don't see that happening. Their front 7 is very suspect to me, and Sean Clifford is literally their quarterback. So how high can this team get?
And I think I'd have to check their schedule again, but I think they got a decent draw. In terms of this conference, I don't think they see Ohio State. I don't think they see or they might see Ohio. They see Ohio State or Michigan. I
They
think
definitely see Ohio State. I'm like 99% sure they do.
then they might not see Michigan.
This
But I
team is
remember
just
looking.
they're way too inconsistent for my liking. Like
Yeah,
I said, elite secondary, terrible front seven, elite wide receivers, abysmal rushing attack. Like it's just too much there. Like there's no middle ground or consistency with this team. They also lost their defensive coordinator, Brent Pry, who is a fantastic defensive backs coach. So I don't even know, man. This is a weird team to predict, but I do think
yeah.
they get out of week one with a W.
They seem like they're becoming like a DB factory, though.
Yeah, I mean
I know
that's
they've
what they
got.
were, and now Pry's gone, and he's going into a Virginia Tech team that brings back a couple of good corners. So it'll be interesting to see how their secondary is. But
Yeah,
Penn State
nobody.
under him was for sure a DB factory. I mean, Jaquan Brisker is an absolute animal, and it was
And
kind of
they've got the two kids that I saw last weekend from St. Thomas. Their starting safeties are both committed to Penn State, both same year.
dang,
Yeah,
interesting.
so you know that
Uh,
they're going to just keep pumping them out.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, next up we got Illinois at Indiana. The line is Indiana -3. I think you said it got down to -2 though.
Was that this game?
I think yeah. I mean Illinois is playing Indiana, and you said Illinois got down to 2.
Oh yeah. I was just amazed because it opened 5.5.
Yeah, no, it opened big. Illinois had a great showing out last weekend. They trounced Wyoming at home. Chase Brown had a fantastic game. Tommy DeVito is probably the most. I wouldn't even call him mid. He's so much less than mid. It's not even like I mean, he's just not it. Illinois kind of just showed how their offense is going to operate for the longevity of the season. It's going to be short, quick passes because they don't trust Tommy DeVito. It's going to be all timing routes, short timing routes, if anything, because anytime he tests the secondary, it's just going to end extremely poorly. And they don't want to risk him getting hurt because their backup is Art Sitkowski, who is the worst quarterback to ever step on a football field. So their main point of emphasis is outside zone runs with Chase Brown, who was fantastic against Wyoming. Anytime they ran to either side, he seemed to be just rattling off big runs left and right. So he's a great back. Indiana's a bit more uncertain. They added like 3 transfer running backs over the offseason, but none of which have really produced at a high level consistently. Sean Shivers is the main one. He's a good receiving back, very physical runner as well, coming in from Auburn. And at the receiver position, they got DJ Matthews, who's a fluid route runner and good in open space. He started last season off pretty well before he dealt with some injuries. And then they also added quarterback Connor Bazelak from Missouri, who played in a really quarterback-friendly offense last year. His average depth of target was one of the lowest in the nation, and he still wasn't even good. So how he'll do it Indiana in a new system, it'll be interesting to see. I don't really rate him that much, though. He's better than Tommy DeVito. That's for sure. That's the one thing. And Indiana, I think they're going to load the box and just force Tommy DeVito to beat them, which won't happen because the one thing about Indiana that is really good is their cornerback duo. Jalen Williams and Tywan Mullen have both received all Big Ten honors over the past couple of years. They're probably a top 3 cornerback duo in the Big Ten, which is crazy to say because of how deep this conference is in terms of secondary, but they're literally the only 2 like players on this team that I would go above and beyond to complement. And I think that's going to be what pays off for them in this game because Tommy DeVito is not going to be able to beat them over the top. And if Indiana just loads the box and focuses on stopping the run, Illinois' offense is going to be in shambles. I got Indiana winning this game 20-17 right on the line. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any real interest in the side in this game, but I don't see a lot of offense. I don't know what it's at now. 47.5 was there. I don't see Illinois getting at least probably no more than 21 points. I don't know. That's where I would lean. Just more defensive, but I don't have much on it.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana was terrible last year. Tom Allen's going to emphasize starting the season strong, so this game kind of will dictate the rest of the year for them. And I think it's a good matchup, honestly, because usually I like teams that played a week 0 game against a week 1 going into week 1.
Mm-hmm.
But Illinois, like their offense is going to be so one-dimensional and so easy to stop, especially on the road. I think this matchup is just too good for Indiana, even though I don't really see them winning by that much because they're just not very good on their own.
Wyoming.
Yeah, it was Wyoming. Exactly.
Yeah.
Next game up, we got TCU against Colorado. I believe this is on Friday night. TCU hired SMU head coach Sonny Dykes, who has a reputation for putting quarterbacks into the league. He was Jared Goff's head coach at Cal before he went number 1 overall. So coming back, playing against a Pac-12 team. So TCU is just going to go all in with the air raid. They got some solid receivers, and they got an experienced quarterback in Max Duggan, who I don't think is very good, but it's a quarterback-friendly offense. I think he has a good game because Colorado is just straight up terrible. They did decent in the transfer portal. They added R.J. Sneed, a solid receiver from Baylor, and Tommy Brown from Mater Dei High School. He was at Alabama for a little while, but then didn't get any playing time there, so he's at Colorado now. Still a big body and has a ton of talent. But those two guys aren't going to be good enough. Brendan Lewis, their quarterback, has one of the worst arms in the nation, and even against a bad TCU defense, I really see them struggling. So I got Colorado losing this game by a score of 35-17. So TCU wins 35-17. How about you?
What's the line on the game?
Last time I checked, TCU was favored by 11 points.
Okay, so you got a TCU cover.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be betting this team. I don't think TCU is very good, honestly. I actually bet their win total under.
What was that?
6.5. I'm at 4.5.
Oh, then there you go. There's some value there. Yeah, no.
It's funny because the only two teams I actually bet a win total under on were Colorado and TCU, and of course.
So you're rooting for a tie here.
Yeah, hopefully Colorado has a ridiculous storm and the game just gets canceled and cancels out.
Yeah, no, I'm not back. I'm not looking to back either of these teams.
Yeah,
not yet. TCU could be decent offensively, but yeah, defensively no. Just typical TCU, honestly.
Yeah. So next game up, first game of Saturday, or well, not the first game of Saturday. First game we're talking about that's on Saturday is Rutgers at Boston College. Rutgers is a team that has way too many inconsistencies. They got some good players in the secondary, but they also have some of the worst players in the secondary. So it just makes no sense. And I think Phil Dracovic is going to be able to rip them apart. Put it simply, he started off last season very well, had dealt with some injuries later on, didn't really finish the season good at all. He was pretty god-awful, honestly. But the talent's there for him. He's a big body, got a decent arm, and he's also going to be able to keep defenses on their heels with his rushing ability. I think he's going to be able to pick on those bad Rutgers DBs, especially with Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers has been one of the most underrated players in college football for a while now. He's got 2 straight seasons with over 2 yards per route run, 2 straight seasons with over 800 rushing or 800 receiving yards. He's just a fantastic talent. I'm really looking forward to seeing him formally break out as long as Dracovic can stay fully healthy. And Jeff Hafley, even though BC doesn't have the most talent in the secondary, Jeff Hafley is going to keep him coached up back there, and they're always going to be in the right position to make plays. And Rutgers has the worst quarterback in the Big Ten, which is saying a lot given Tommy DeVito and Graham Mertz and Spencer Petras are all there as well. Noah Vedral finished last in the Big Ten last season in passer rating and yards per attempt. He's really shown no signs of getting better throughout his 2 years as a Rutgers starter. And despite Greg Schiano being a fine coach, I really don't see Boston College, or I don't really see Rutgers standing a chance in this game. I got BC winning 28-17.
Yeah, that was the nicest way you could possibly say that.
Yeah.
God, behind Mertz, that's awful.
Yeah, that's how you know it's bad.
No, Rutgers, I like Jerkovic, or Dracovic, whatever you call him. I always thought it was Jerkovic. But yeah, once he got hurt last year, kind of fell off. Have to see where he's at. I'm sure he's healthy now, but who knows? Who knows what he's looking like? Another game I'm not touching. Thought it would be low scoring, but never know. Usually the defense should be ahead of offenses this point of the season, and then offenses start to catch up. But I lean to mostly unders in week 1 so far, just for the games that we've talked about. I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know the total is here. I have Boston College money line parlayed with another team's money line. We'll get to that later, but yeah. I didn't even look at the total here. I really don't. I don't want to flirt with a Rutgers over under because they always seem to pull some weird stuff out of their ass in terms of defensive special teams touchdowns because their offense is not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. Isaiah Pacheco, who's been the star of Chiefs training camp, couldn't even average 4 yards per carry behind this Rutgers offensive line. And they lost their best offensive line, by the way. Raekwon O'Neal transferred to UCLA. So their offensive line is going to be worse. And they couldn't even make a guy who's been the star of Chiefs training camp a half-decent running back. He didn't even average 4 yards per carry behind this offensive line.
I didn't even know who he was.
Yeah, you see what I mean? I mean, I knew who he was just because I know these things, but yeah. I mean, he was considered one of the worst backs in Power 5. His stats, if you were to look at this guy's box score stats, you would have been yeah, there's no way this guy's even getting sniffed by NFL scouts.
Yeah,
and I mean, he's talented. I mean, just look at a picture of the guy. He's a big back. He's ripped, and he's got great speed. So, if he can do anything behind this Rutgers offensive line, I don't know who will. And with Noah Vedral at quarterback, they're going to be god awful.
Dang.
Next up, we got North Carolina at App State. I do have a play in this game. It's going to be pretty obvious given my score prediction. App State returns 2 elite running backs in Nate Noel and Cam Peoples. Both have seasons with 1,000+ rushing yards under their belt, and both of them averaged over 3.5 yards after contact per carry last season. So you got 2 great running backs, 2 physical backs, so not much of a drop-off no matter who's on the field. They also return a veteran quarterback in Chase Bryce, who had over 3,300 passing yards last year, averaged over 8.5 yards per attempt, and they also returned 4 of 5 offensive linemen, including both tackles, so their pass blocking will be improved, and they were not even bad last year. They were very good, and as a matter of fact. They're going to run all over UNC. UNC's front seven is god-awful. They won't be able to force any pressure. They won't be able to stop the run. So UNC is toast in this game in every way, shape, and form, in my opinion. Their DBs aren't good either, so Chase Bryce is going to have all day to throw against not very good defensive backs. I see App State completely running up the score against them. I got App State winning this game 38-23.
Do you know the line?
It's a pick 'em.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's going to be choppy too. Yeah, I mean, North Carolina defensively, they're just like a sieve. Nothing to get excited about. But it's a team that's moving on from a starting quarterback. Usually for me, it's wait and see with them. You just don't know exactly what you're going to get.
See, now, with North Carolina, though, it's a little bit different. Like, I like Drake May. Like, I think he's very good. I think he's the best true freshman quarterback this season.
Where's he from?
By a wide margin. I don't know where he's from, but I know he's the little brother of North Carolina basketball legend Luke May.
Luke May.
So he's got that going for him. He's got Tar Heel in his blood. He had a very good game last week, actually, and I think he's a very, very pure passer. Got great mechanics for somebody as young as he is. But App State, I mean, the place is going to be rocking, first of all, and they also bring back Nick Hampton, their best pass rusher, who had like 56 pressures last season, I believe. So he's back. He's going to be terrorizing them all game, and they also return a bunch of guys in their secondary. So I see him really struggling here despite him having a very bright future. So, like I said, I got App State winning this game by a couple of touchdowns.
38-27.
Yes,
Let's see it. Where's the game?
It's in App State.
You got that on your side.
Exactly. Next game up, we got Oregon against Georgia.
There we go.
People think this is a neutral site game. It's not a neutral site game. It's a home game for Georgia. I don't care if it says neutral site. It will be 100% Georgia fans at this game. Oregon, I think they'll be able to stop the run. I'd put Oregon's defensive tackle trio. They're very deep at defensive tackle, and I'd put their guys up against pretty much any other trio in the nation. They got Popo Amave, Brandon Dorlus, and they added Washington transfer Sam Taimani. Dorlus and Amave will both be competing for all Pac-12 first-team honors this year. I think they're the number 1 and 3 defensive tackle in the Pac-12 with USC's Tuli Tuipulotu being in the middle of them. I think they'll be able to stop the run. Not really sure what Georgia's rushing attack is going to look like, but I trust Oregon's front seven to be able to stop the run and limit that. However, Oregon secondary, it's an absolute joke, to put it lightly. And Georgia returns 2 fantastic pass catchers. They lost Jermaine Burton, which is going to be tough for a little while, but I like the guys they have. They got Brock Bowers, Eric Gilbert, and Ladd McConkey. Eric Gilbert, a transfer from LSU, just a freak athlete. Brock Bowers, a pure tight end, can do it all. Probably going to be the first tight end off the board when he's eligible to be drafted. And Ladd McConkey is more of an underrated player. He's like a 5'11" white kid, but I swear to God, I've never seen anyone run routes this good. And he was a true freshman last year. Quarterbacks had a 154 passer rating when targeting him last year out of 158. And he was a true freshman. Yeah. And he wasn't even like a 4-star recruit. This kid is flying under the radar like no one else I've ever seen before. He's going to have a gigantic year this year. He can win at all 3 levels. They use him all over the field. He can be used in the slot, out wide. He gets his handoffs. He had a huge game against Auburn. So look for Ladd McConkey to be a guy who really breaks onto the scene, especially against a bad Oregon secondary. Like Ladd McConkey, the only guys who had a better passer rating when targeted than him last year, it was Cedric Tillman from Tennessee, who is elite. He's like 6'5", real Cortland Sutton-esque player. At the college level, it's kind of a cheat code. And then the other guy was Treylon Burks, who very similar scenario, kind of a cheat code at the college level just because of his size and catch radius. So Ladd McConkey is definitely a player to watch this year. I got Georgia relying on the pass a lot in the second half, and that's going to put him over the top. I think Oregon plays him close for the first half, though. I don't hate Bo Nix. I don't hate their rushing attack either. They brought in a couple of transfers as well as bringing back Byron Cardwell, who's very talented. So I think Oregon will be able to kind of establish the run a little bit, but when it comes time to score late in the game, after Georgia scored a couple of touchdowns on back-to-back possessions, I don't see them being able to do that. I got Georgia winning this game 31-23.
Yeah, I got Georgia winning too, but I thought 17 or 17 and a half was probably too much for a team with that much overhaul, especially defensively. It's just tough to correct in one off season or get right. I don't like Bennett. I don't think he's kind of the game manager that everybody calls him. Like I think he threw like 30 touchdowns last year and less than 10 picks.
The thing about him, though, that I kind of saw, and that's what a lot of his critics are saying, was that a lot of his production was generated because of how good their rushing attack was, and it would just be like, okay, spread it out, play action, hit Jermaine Burton, hit McConkey deep, or just hit Bowers over the middle because they're just
Yeah.
that good of players. And it was like just put it in the area and see what they can do. Like that touchdown that he threw in the late stages of that national championship game that put him over the top.
Mhm.
I don't really think that was like a fantastic throw. That was kind of just like
Yeah.
tucked up one-on-one, see what happens, and his guy came down with the ball. It's like great.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting to see how he does without as good of a rushing attack. A lot more pressure will be on him, and I think this is a good way for him to start. I mean, Oregon secondary has some talent, but they just haven't been able to put it together, and they lose Verone McKinley and a couple other guys. Their only real addition was Christian Gonzalez, a transfer from Colorado, who is solid. Granted, like he's a very solid player, but he's by no means good enough to guard this Georgia secondary this Georgia receiving corps on his own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that they kind of like inflated the line a little bit. I think that Oregon
How it
probably
goes though, you know,
national champions week one. I know, and I just think that 17 and a half is too much. I probably
Yeah.
won't be on either side here. I do like Georgia. It's just I need to see it first. I need to see them. I need to see their defense be still like a dominant unit. They're probably a favorite in every game this year, and I think that if they played like Georgia from last year, they'd probably be like a 7.5 point dog. But
Oregon.
no, I'm saying if Georgia,
like Georgia
team,
played.
like I think they're still good. I think they're
Yeah.
going to be good.
Yeah,
I think that they're noticeably taking a step back this year, though.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Next up, we got Cincinnati at Arkansas. These are two teams that are kind of wait and see for me. Don't really know much about either. Like Cincinnati loses so much on defense. They had a couple of nice additions with Ivan Pace and a couple of other like group of five guys who are elite at that level.
Mhm.
Now they got to play an SEC team, an SEC team that loses a lot on offense. They lose Traylon Burks. By saying a lot, I mean he's the guy they lose, and he's the one guy that was really the focal point of their offense. It's going to be interesting to see how KJ Jefferson does without him, because for me, I understand the KJ Jefferson hype, but a lot of his stats last season were just kind of chuck it up and see what Traylon can do. Like screw it, Traylon's down there somewhere.
And he has no mechanics.
His mechanics are awful. That's what I was saying that earlier too, man. It's like he throws off his back foot nonstop, doesn't have like any.
He doesn't drop back.
It's like he doesn't drop back either. He kind of just stands there and just
I love
uses
seeing
all
it,
of his
but-
arm strength.
Yeah,
But it got the job done last year. Going to be interesting to see how it does this year. He's got some nice playmaking ability with his feet as well. I think his dynamic playmaking is going to be what takes Arkansas over the top against a team in Cincinnati, which we don't really know how they're going to be on offense. They lose their three best offensive players with Alec Pierce, Jerome Ford, and Desmond Ridder. And I think game one going into SEC territory is going to be a little bit too much for them. I got Arkansas winning this game 27-17.
Yeah, and that's not like Alabama losing like their three best offensive players. Like Cincinnati doesn't have three great players behind those guys. It's not a team that builds like that. They're probably going to start picking up more and more recruits, but this team is trying to stay competitive through the transfer portal, and I think that's a more difficult way, at least early on in the season. I feel like that's going to take more time to gel. There's a reason we haven't said Cincinnati. They weren't in your top 25. They weren't in any of when we were talking about playoffs, anything like that. This team just loses a lot. Lose both your corners. Think you lost a safety. Lose your quarterback. Quarterback one, running back one, wide receiver one.
It was what? Kobe, Sauce, Brian Cook.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, those were their three best guys in the secondary last year, and they lose all of them.
Yeah, and where they sucked was, I mean, maybe not where they sucked in terms.
They didn't suck on the defensive line, but it was when they had to go against Alabama.
Exactly,
it didn't look good because
that was where you got
Alabama's
outclassed.
bigger, faster, stronger, simply put.
So even if you bring back those guys, it's not going to be, you're going up against an SEC team. You're going to be met physically and athletically. They're going to be in that. Arkansas is going to be right there with them. So
Yeah,
To
and
me, I
especially with
don't
Sam
know.
Pittman. I mean, he's elevated their program to heights they were nowhere near expecting at this early in his tenure. And he's
Yeah,
really put an emphasis on the offensive line, like be physical, give KJ a pocket, and see what he can do. And when they had Traylon last year, it worked. It's gonna be it's interesting to see how it works this year.
yeah.
Like
I
I
do
said, I got
like.
Archie winning 27-17. Next up, we got Arizona versus San Diego State. San Diego State had a very good year last year. They beat my Utes, actually, unfortunately. Won't happen again this year, but San Diego State is still very good. They returned two guys who had over 50 pressures last year. And last year against Arizona, they had 38 pressures in total, which is absolutely mind-boggling. This year, however, it's a completely new look Arizona team. First guy I want to start with is Jacob Cowing. He was second in the nation last season in yards per route run, playing for UTEP. He can win at all three levels. I mean, against the Pac-12, he's going to be going crazy. San Diego State loses their two best corners. However, I want to give credit where credit is due. They retooled nicely. They have this thing going for them where they only look for cornerbacks who are at least 6'2". Like down the roster, they solely recruit like long corners, and it works because last year their guys were insane. But this year, without the experience having to go up against Jacob Cowing, I don't really love the matchup. Along with Tetero McMillan, he went to Servite High School right down the road from me. Very physical route runner. He's 6'4". He's the highest rated recruit in school history. He'll be an instant impact player for Arizona.
Mhm.
He's just that good. He's a very physical route runner, can make contested catches. That's what I love to see, especially with the wide receiver too, complementing a guy like Jacob Cowing who's so dynamic and can do literally everything. And at quarterback, they added Jaden DeLaura, who in my opinion is the fourth best quarterback in the Pac-12 this year, Washington State transfer. He's a pure pocket passer and can make big time throws. That's really what I want to look at for a team like Arizona, which doesn't have too high expectations, kind of nothing to lose for them. So he can play his game. He can do what he wants and just kind of chuck it up to these new receivers that he has at his disposal, who are both very good. Like I said, San Diego State loses their two best corners, and with these new playmakers on Arizona's team, I don't think the San Diego State pass rush is going to be as much as a factor as it was last year, because they'll be able to run short, quick passes. Their receivers will be getting down the field quicker and whatnot. So I kind of like the way Arizona matches up in this game, and I have the Wildcats upsetting the Aztecs 24-21.
I'm looking for a line on this one right now.
It's Arizona +6, and I believe the over-under is 47.5.
+6. Wow. Yeah, this is not the same Arizona team as the last couple of years where they were just like completely bereft of talent. And just like completely ass.
Yeah, the main thing for them as well is they returned four guys from their offensive line, and Jed Fish, their head coach, who has NFL experience. He was the Patriots quarterbacks coach at one point, I believe. He's been really emphasizing throughout camp how much that group has progressed.
Yeah.
They were really bad last year. They were really young. They're still kind of young, a couple of sophomores in there, but I think they're going to be a lot better in that area as well, and that's going to be kind of what helps them in this game the most, because even when they're not running short, quick passes, even when they're trying to air it out deep, they'll be able to hold their blocks.
Yeah, they'll have time. Yeah, I kind of side with you there. I don't know if Arizona's going to win. I feel like that's more of just like your take, like your gut feeling on it. I don't have that, but I definitely like it to be a close game. I don't see San Diego State pulling away from anybody.
Yeah, they do have a good running back. They get Chance Bell back. He was very good after contact last year. He's got great speed as well. So that's a big thing. But Arizona's front seven also got a lot better. They added Hunter Eccles from USC, who has a ton of starts under his belt, and they also get back Kion Bars, who was a second-team All Pac-12 selection. I think he was the only player on their team last year who was an All Pac-12 selection. So getting him back obviously is massive.
One player.
Yeah, that's how bad they've been abysmal over the last few years, and it's good to see. I like the team they have this year. I like what Jed Fish is building there. It's kind of canceling out what Kevin Sumlin did to the program, which honestly, in my book, is on par with terrorism. Next up, we got Utah versus Florida. I'm flying out Friday, I believe. Maybe it's tomorrow. I genuinely have no idea, but I'm gonna be there in Gainesville. I'm really looking forward to it.
Save this for last?
What's that?
I thought you would save this one for last.
No, I'm kind of just going down the order of like the times.
Let's do it. I have a play in this game. I placed it the second I found the line.
Yeah, so I don't bet on my own team, so
I will.
I'm keeping the distance here. But I think the main matchup to watch here is Utah's rushing attack versus Florida's front seven. Florida gave up 4.84 yards per rush last year. Utah, I don't want to sound biased by saying this, but we literally have 6 guys, maybe even 7, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. Now that the depth chart came out and we're kind of seeing who's going to be getting the ball more. We got 7 guys who can rush for at least 200 yards this season. You got Tavion Thomas, who broke the school record with 23 touchdowns last season. He's back. absolute dog. Going to be an NFL draft pick as well. Great with his cuts, great vision, and he's just like a Black Air Force mentality player, which is like I love Tavion. And then we got Mekhi Bernard, who made that ridiculous catch in the Rose Bowl. Great receiving back, very shifty, physical runner too. He's just like this is a kid that's like all about Utah. Like he's just bought into what the coaches are selling, and he's got the best mentality I've seen out of any player to come out of this program in quite some time. So he's going to be a great player as well. We got Chris Curry, who was LSU's leading rusher in their playoff game 3 years ago. He was on that great Joe Burrow-led team, and he got listed as a – what's that?
What is he, a coach?
No, he's a player.
How old is he?
I don't know, but he's on our team, and he's good. So we got Chris Curry, and we also got Jalen Glover, who I had the pleasure of speaking to a couple of days ago. He broke like every Florida running back record in high school. True freshman, had a great spring game. And then we also got a tight end. We got a tight end who can run the ball. He got 6 career rushing touchdowns. Brant Keithy, the most versatile player in the Pac-12, and it's not even close. He's right after the catch, can run every route in the game. And like I said, he can run the ball. What team is a tight end that can run the ball? So I'm all aboard with our rushing attack this year. I think we're going to absolutely trounce them on the ground, and it's going to set up big play action plays late in the game. But Florida won't go down without a fight. In my opinion, Anthony Richardson's the most physically talented quarterback we'll face all year in terms of just pure arm strength, pure athleticism. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him play in person because he really hasn't had a full-on chance to display his abilities. It's kind of been, okay, Emory kind of sucks. Okay, Anthony, go play these last 15 minutes and see if you can get any sparks. So he hasn't really had a fair shot at playing. And like I said, I think his talent is through the roof. And the note that I had on him was, might be a little bit too much of a hot take, but if he were to reach his full potential, I mean, it's Cam Newton 2.0. Like, I don't really see a way that
he has the skill set.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like his skill set and his just pure ability is through the roof. It's just if he can put it together. And Florida's also got some big boys on their offensive line. Their right guard, Osiris Torrance, transfer from Louisiana, coming with Billy Napier. He's 6'5" and weighs 350 pounds. And he's never allowed a sack in his career. So they got some guys on their offensive line that are just absolute hogs. So Florida won't go down without a fight. I got Utah winning this game 27-23.
I am with you. I think Utah wins. I do not believe in Anthony Richardson. I have not seen it. Everybody is blowing so much smoke up his ass.
See, now I was kind of on the same page as you, but I like Will Levis a lot, and I'm forgetting his name, but he's the guy that runs the Manning Passing Academy. It's like where all the best quarterbacks go over the offseason. I mean, and he was saying that I know Jim Nagy. Jim Nagy's his name. He's a very highly touted NFL scout, and he was saying that Will Levis and Anthony Richardson were by far the best quarterbacks there. So that was when I was kind of like, okay, shit, maybe something's going to happen this year with him. Obviously, we haven't seen it yet, but I'm a believer.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of talk about him like flying up draft boards and stuff, and I just don't know what people are seeing because I watched Florida. I've seen probably 80% of their games over the last 2 years. I haven't seen anything. I mean, if you're losing reps to Emory, that tells me what I need to know. So
that's what I was thinking too. That's what kind of stopping me from really expecting a ton from him. Like I said, if it all works out well for him, he's Cam Newton 2.0, but the floor is like very far down as well.
Yeah, it's like DJ. Same with DJ to me, but DJ's even shown me more, like
which shows how little Anthony Richardson's shown.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just don't think that Florida is like. I think they're in like a weird spot for me. New coach, which is always a stay away spot, especially week 1 for me, unless it's against like a total fade, like somebody that I'm just completely want to fade. But you're not playing with your full deck. You're playing with other recruits, people that you didn't spend hours on hours planning for and all that shit. By the time the first game comes, obviously you've planned, but these aren't guys that are going to be there long term with him. And I don't know. I like Utah. I thought the line was short. I think it's kind of trappy, kind of mushy, but I hope for your sake and my sake that Utah just does enough to win.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to lose, it would suck because I'd be in Gainesville for more than an hour and we would lost the game.
And this isn't the game for Utah to lose. Like if there's a game on the schedule they're going to lose, it's later in the year. Oregon, USC, something like that.
It's a stupid game. The one that always is lingering in the back of my mind for this season. We got to play Washington State on the road on a Thursday night, coming off the USC game.
That's an ass whooping, though.
Like
Just run the ball.
I don't know, dude. That game's got me thinking. I'm like, that's such a trappy spot. Like, I hate that. But I agree with you. I mean, I'm trying to think the last time we lost a non-conference season opener. And I
Probably
can't
not
put
even
my finger on
alive.
it. Definitely hasn't happened in the Pac-12 era. We lost the season opener in the COVID season, but that was against USC. So obviously that was a conference game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm talking non-conference season opener. And I can't think of it. I mean, people will say, "Oh, Utah like hasn't had a home and home this big." Well, yeah, we have. We swept Michigan like 5-6 years ago easily.
Mhm.
I mean, they can even Michigan. Okay, in 2014, we went to the Big House, and Michigan couldn't even get in the red zone against us. So if you want to really bring up that debate, oh, Utah can't hang with the talent of these big boy teams. Well, yeah,
No.
we can because we also beat a Jim Harbaugh coach Michigan team, which ended up beating that team. That Michigan team in 2015 finished the season ranked higher than we did, and we beat them. So I don't know. Coach Witt always has us up for these types of games. He always does, and I'm trusting him and the staff this season as well. So I like us to beat the Gators.
Yep, I'm with you there.
Next up, we got Notre Dame at Ohio State. See, now Notre Dame, I despise.
Ass whooping.
I despise the Irish. However, this season, I kind of have a soft spot for them. I kind of like the team that they got. Their secondary, they got some long corners, which I like to see. Some corners who are proven and experienced, which I like to see. And they also got a great addition. They kind of took it from great to elite by adding All-American safety Brandon Joseph, who was the star of the show for Northwestern for some time. Their new quarterback, Tyler Buchner, is a great is a great talent. He's got a ton of talent. He was a borderline 5-star recruit, depending on where you looked. And the main scouting report on him is that he's just a warrior. Like, he is willing to put his body on the line for his team at all times, which I think is a great compliment to what Marcus Freeman is kind of preaching at Notre Dame. He's a great motivator, and I think with a quarterback that will do anything for his team to win, I think that's a great duo to have. However, he's going against the Ohio State defense that was really young last year. They're going to mature a lot, and they still return some of their best players. They return Zach Harrison, who's been there for like what seems like 20 years. Tyleek Smith, one of their guys on their defensive line, is due for a huge breakout, in my opinion. And Denzel Burke, who was very good last year. I think he's going to make that jump from solid cornerback to elite cornerback one. And he's also in line with a bunch of other guys from the Big Ten who are all elite cornerbacks. I think Notre Dame keeps it close for the first half. Because I do like the experience they have on defense, and their offense is pretty versatile as well. They got a couple of solid running backs, and they got Brandon Lindsay and another guy. I'm blanking on his name, but they got some guys with speed on the outside. So I think they can score a little bit on the Buckeyes in the first half, but then when it comes down to Ohio State nonstop passing the ball, kind of similar to how the Rose Bowl went, and Notre Dame just won't be able to get over the top. I got the Buckeyes pulling away late in this game, winning this game by 17, 38-21.
Yeah, this is a 40-piece. Buckeyes offense is going to be insane. I'm not higher than any team in the country besides maybe Alabama, but I obviously like the Buckeyes route to a national championship more. I think just Stroud, Henderson, the weapons, Smith and Jigbo, however you pronounce it, just one of them. Just everywhere. I just think Ohio State is just too big, too fast, too strong. Notre Dame is going to be there. They're going to be physical, but I think that Notre Dame is more of like a beat the 10 through 15s of the world, 10 through 20s of the world. When you play like the top upper echelon teams, I think they just get exposed too often. I like Kelly. He's out. So I don't know. We'll see what Notre Dame looks like long term this year. But I mean, in my eyes, there's no way they don't start 0-1. And from there, it's just like, uphill battle for the rest of the season as far as playoff terms.
Yeah, I mean that's a very fair assessment. I think I have them at 10-2, maybe 9-3 ish, because their schedule is a lot tougher than it has been in years prior. They're playing like Bowling Green week 11, like they get free wins all over the place. This year, a little bit different. So it'll be interesting to see how they do, but I do think the Buckeyes are just too much, man. And I hate to do it because I honestly like this Notre Dame team, which is something I've never said in my life.
Yeah, who the fuck likes Notre Dame? Unless you went to Notre Dame or you're from like Northeast Philadelphia,
You shouldn't like them.
Nobody does. Yeah, I haven't met anybody that does.
I can't stand that. I can't stand them. Next up, we got Louisville against Syracuse, two teams that are very good at running the football. Louisville, not really because of a running back. It's more their quarterback,
Yeah.
Malik Cunningham. But Syracuse, once again, I mean, they're right there with Malik Cunningham, not in terms of passing ability, but great. Garrett Schrader is one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the nation. He had, I want to say, over 1,000 yards last year and like 13 touchdowns on the ground. So he's got it going. And they also have Sean Tucker, one of the most hyped up backs for this next NFL draft class. He's a stud as well. This game is going to be won on the ground. I think Syracuse, this line is kind of just giving Syracuse too much credit just for being the home team, and they're not giving Malik Cunningham enough credit for the work he's done at Louisville. I mean, he has been severely underappreciated. He had 39 total touchdowns last year, over 4,000 total yards. He is the one that makes this offense work. And they also added some good transfers. I've been blanking on his name, but they got a guy from Central Arkansas who had over 1,200 receiving yards last year. They returned a couple of other good receiving options as well. So I like this Louisville offense a ton. I do think Louisville pulls away late in this game. They win a game. They win by the score of 41-28.
Yeah, I think Louisville is just too much offensively for them. Well, I don't know who's getting a stop in this game. Like, I don't know if Louisville is going to string together multiple defensive stops.
Because the thing for me is Louisville can load the box and stop Syracuse. Syracuse can't load the box and stop Louisville.
Yeah, I just think both of these teams are going to just be having easy access to points, at least on the ground. You're going to have to prove it to me if either of these quarterbacks want to drop back and just throw the ball 40 times. I need to see it. Right now, I don't. I kind of looked at, like, when you were going over it just now, in my head, I just keep thinking under, because two teams that want to run the ball, two teams that can run the ball well.
Like I feel like the over is so free, but at the same time, I mean, they could be taking 5-6 minutes per drive, just milking clock, and then it's like, damn, okay, they're putting up like 400 total yards to get, like, both teams are putting up 400 total yards individually, but it's like, how'd the under not hit? It's like, well, 7-6 minutes per drive.
Exactly. That's why, like, I just looked at the line, 57.5. Your score, 41-28. That blows that out of the water.
Blows it out of the water. That's what I feel like even that, it could be higher than that.
It makes sense. When, like, thinking about it in my head, it sounds like just like a kind of like an offensive back and forth, just firepower. But then when you kind of break it down, it's like, well, there's only so much time in the game.
Right.
Like, these aren't going to be quick 3-4 minute touchdown drives. It's going to, they're going to build up.
Like eventually, like, Sean Tucker or Cunningham will break one off for 69 yards, and it'll be a quick hitter. But over the longevity of the game, that's not going to be happening back to back to back. I don't know if you were on the game with me, but maybe it was Della, but it was Wake Forest versus Army last year, and they scored 28 points in like 40 seconds, and it was like 70-yard touchdown, kick return, 70-yard touchdown, 70-yard touchdown. It was just like, what the hell is happening? I don't see this game being like that.
I had the over, and it cashed in like the first half, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did. That game was ridiculous.
It was just a perfect storm. But, like, one team couldn't stop the run, the other team couldn't stop the pass, and they were just going against each other.
Exactly. So are you on board with me, Louisville winning this game?
Am I on what?
Are you on board with me with Louisville beating?
Yeah. Well, Louisville, they're what? They're a favorite?
Yeah, they're favored by 4, maybe 4.5 now.
Yeah, I like Louisville to be able to squeak it out. Honestly, I'd probably lean with Louisville if it's only 4.5. I have to see what it opened at. I mean,
I don't want to
shitty number
spoil anything, but I have a play in there. Let's see. Next up, we got Boise State at Oregon State. This is the most toss-up-y game, in my opinion, for this week. Most of them I have a pretty strong lean with who's winning outright. This one, however, not so much. Oregon State loses B.J. Baylor, who absolutely shredded my Utes last season. That's a big loss, but they return like 4 guys from what was an elite offensive line group led by Marco Brewer, who is a consensus all Pac-12 selection for the first team, in my opinion, this year. He will be one of the best offensive linemen in the nation. Like I said, they got an elite offensive line, so the running attack won't be an issue. However, their quarterback, Chance Nolan, is the definition of mid. Whereas with Boise State, their run defense can hold up. They return a lot of guys from what was a great run defense last year. So I think they'll be able to kind of stifle the Beavers a little bit. But at the end of the day, Oregon State announces it's a sellout for them, which doesn't happen too often because of how bad they were in recent memory. Jonathan Smith's done a great job of building their program up. And like I said, their offensive line is really good. Credit to Boise State's defensive line, though. They're fantastic as well. But I do think the Beavers squeaked this one out in the end. I got Oregon State winning the game 27-24.
All right, forgive me for this because I truly have no idea. Who's at quarterback for Boise State?
I believe it's still Hank Bachmeier. He's been their guy for the past
couple years. Is he still there?
He is still there, yeah.
Dude, I'm asking because I swear I saw him in a preseason game.
No, you might have saw Brett Ripien. He was their old quarterback from a while back.
I definitely saw Rippy, and I don't even remember where he's from or where he is now, but I definitely saw him. But I could have swore I saw Bachmeier.
No.
Yeah, either way, I mean, just not a game that I have any interest in. I think, yeah, probably whoever wins in the trenches probably squeaks it out here. Like you said, just a toss up. Oregon, like a 3-point home favorite or 2.5-point home favorite. If I had to pick, I'd probably lean that way just because I feel like more money would come in on Boise. And I, just take my chances being on the right side of that, but no interest for me.
Yeah, that's very fair. No interest for me either. But like I said, I like the Beavers. Got to back the Pac-12 a little bit.
I got something in this next game though, and I think we'll disagree.
Florida State LSU.
Yep.
Yeah, we're definitely disagreeing. I love Florida State this year. I love them, and it all starts in the trenches. Robert Cooper and Fabian Levitt are the most underrated defensive tackle duo in the nation, and it's not even close. Like this, it's nowhere near close. These two guys are both absolute studs. Rob Cooper, in my opinion, is by far the best player on this team, which is a lot because they got talent pretty much everywhere. Both of them allowed an average depth, or both of their average depth per tackles was less than 0.8 yards last year. So they're both great run stoppers, and their linebacking corps is like 4 deep with guys who are going to be playing at the next level, led by Tatum Bethune, the UCF transfer, who has great closing speed, had a fantastic week 0 for the Noles last week. And on offense, they're so versatile. I don't love Jordan Travis, but I think people give him too much slander. He's got great rushing ability. They got Trayshawn Ward, Oregon transfer, Trey Benson, who had a great appearance last week. They both rushed for over 100 yards. They had 3 running backs rush for over 100 yards, and they also got Jordan Travis, who can run the ball effectively as well. So their rushing attack is going to be too much for LSU, in my opinion. LSU's main thing is their wide receivers and their secondary. Their secondary, it's fantastic. They got Jarek Bernard-Converse, the transfer from Oklahoma State, who led Power 5 in penalties, I believe, last year, but he also led Power 5 in like forcing completion. So he's a real boomer bust corner. And Mekhi Gardner on the other side, the transfer from Louisiana, allowed a passer rating less than 40, I believe, last year. And he's very long, real lengthy player, 6'2", can hang with the best of them. So while I do love LSU's cornerback duo, their safeties I'm a little bit more hesitant on. And Florida State has Johnny Wilson, who is 6'7". He is a true basketball player, true box out type wide receiver. He had a 57-yard catch, I believe, in the first quarter last week, and they just took him out because they know how important he is for this game. Going up against those physical long corners that LSU has, he is going to be a big part of this offense for this game. And I think he has a big game. I like Florida State a lot. And on the other side, LSU's wide receivers, they got Keishawn Butte and a bunch of guys who stepped up in his absence last season. I don't think they're going to be able to do much against this Florida State safety duo of Jamie Robinson and Akeem Dent. Jamie Robinson is very swagalicious. I don't know what to say. He's got a lot of swagger.
You just call somebody swagalocious?
I don't know what the word is, dude. But Jamie Robinson, he's a high flyer. That's what I'll say. He's all over the field. Can play in the box, can play in the secondary, can do it all. He's going to be tough to beat over the top. And they also got Akeem Dent, who's much more of a cover safety, allowed a passer rating of only 43 last season. So I don't think LSU is going to be able to beat them over the top with those two safeties. And also Jaden Daniels, you stink, buddy. You stink. Yeah, stinky. So I got Florida State winning this game by a score of 30-23.
I need you to tell me the line on this game.
Florida State's +3.
Okay. Then I probably won't bet LSU. This is just a battle of the mid-off at quarterback, but around these quarterbacks, I think both teams can be pretty good.
Travis is much better than Jaden Daniels, in my opinion.
Jaden Daniels blows, but Travis sucks too. But the LSU I feel like that they're in a better spot. Going into this season, they're another year away from losing their entire fucking roster to the NFL. Another year away from Ed O, who obviously I like, but that just a lot of moving parts at one point in time for that program.
For LSU, you're saying?
Yeah, for LSU.
Yeah. This
is a team that probably lost more players to injury last year, like games started, than anybody I can think of. I know that I saw a number for it. They had starters miss like 90+ games last year combined. Players that started week 1 and didn't start somewhere along the line. So I don't know. I just feel like this is like a kind of a good foundation to start on. Who knows if they'll be very good? I mean, you can only be so good with that quarterback situation. But I don't know. I'm tired of buying into the FSU hype. Every school in Florida just gets hyped every year. The U is back, FSU baby, whatever. UCF national champions, and every year they kind of just like fall flat on their face. So until somebody proves me wrong or just proves that theory wrong, I kind of just want to fade them. But I'm not going to lay 3 points. So I'll root for you basically.
That's fair. That's fair. And I want to give credit where credit is due to LSU. Their defensive line isn't bad at all, like either. They got BJ Ojulari, who would probably be the best defensive end in the SEC if Will Anderson wasn't alive. Yeah, exactly. And they also got a Jacqueline Roy, one of the better defensive tackles out there as well. But their linebacking corps has me worried. I don't think they'll be able to close on those outside runs, which Florida State will be able to run effectively so well because of all the talent they have at their skill positions. And I mean, Jordan Travis, if he's scrambling too, I don't think they'll be able to close down on him either. And then, like I said, Johnny Wilson on the outside, going to be too much for that LSU team. Like I said, I got Florida State winning. Then we got the Monday night game, which I probably won't even be watching because it's actually the worst matchup I've ever seen. We got Clemson versus Georgia Tech. Man, Clemson. I got them at number 4 in my rankings, and I think they're gonna be pretty good this year. They're on the longest winning streak, longest active winning streak in the nation. They got by far the best defensive line in the nation, in my opinion, and they got a wide receiver in Joe Ngata who I love. I absolutely love him. He's kind of like this. He's kind of like a Slim Reaper, but taller than Devonta Smith. He's 6'2". Very fast, great after the catch. And I think with him on the outside, they're going to kind of simplify this offense for DJ. I think they saw what he did last year. It's going to be a lot more short, quick passes, get their talented receivers into open space, and they also return a couple of solid running backs, so their rushing attack's going to be good as well. Georgia Tech, right there at the bottom, along with Kansas, Colorado, in terms of talent. I said it a couple days ago. I said if I could bet on the first college head coach given the boot, this was before the Nebraska game. Now it'll probably be Scott Frost, but
I think Scott Frost was a huge favorite, anyways.
Yeah, he's minus 1,000. So I'll go with Jeff Collins for the value because he sucks. He's a terrible head coach, and Georgia Tech is going to get absolutely obliterated here. I got Clemson winning 38-7.
Yeah. See, I mean, this game is obviously there's no like parity possible. Clemson's going to win this game. Their defense is just too good. Their defense is insane. Just looking at them up and down the roster. But it all falls on DJ as far as the season. Like, fuck this game. Obviously, Clemson's going to win. Couldn't tell you the line. Wouldn't have any interest laying 30 points in a game.
It's 21.5.
21?
Yeah.
I'm not above laying 21.5, honestly. that might be something I look at. But, I mean, what is Clemson's offense? Is DJ the same quarterback that was the number 1 ranked recruit ever, whatever he was, or is he the guy that's had 2 games in his career over 250 passing yards?
See, now I kind of love the spot that he's in this year because they brought in Cade Klubnik, who is a 5-star quarterback recruit, and I mean DJ knows that he wasn't good last year. I mean, he can't ignore it, given all the hype around him, and now you got a guy who is supposedly an elite quarterback behind you, putting pressure on you.
Yeah,
like he's got to perform, and it all starts like. You got to take it a play at a time and just do your job, which wasn't the case last year. I think he kind of just bought into the hype on his own and thought he was hot shit because of that one game he had against Notre Dame. And obviously,
it was his best game still.
What's that?
That's still the best game of his. I think that's the only game in his career where he's thrown for over 250 yards.
Yeah, that was the best game of his career, and they didn't even win.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this team's going to be just. They wouldn't even need an offense to win this game. There's a possibility that they score a defensive touchdown that equates to more points than Georgia Tech puts up. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to think of them. They're just too big of a question mark. Your win total's 10.5. You're a minus 120 favorite to win your conference for the first time in like the last 4 years. They must have been minus 800 or more. So it's just like so that number comes way down from minus 800 to minus 120. That's like a bettable number.
Yeah.
But their win total's a soft 11 or like a juicy 10.5 somewhere. Like, it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
I think they're getting a little bit underrated by just media in general. People want to just pick NC State because they're kind of a trendy pick, and they do have some good players. Like they really do. But if we're being real, like I mean, Drake Thomas is a fantastic linebacker for NC State. But he's a guy that I don't even think would start for Clemson. Like,
Yeah,
if anything, it's like you're taking the 12 best players or the 11 best players from the ACC and making like an all ACC defense. I mean,
they're there. All right.
most of them are Clemson players. I mean, maybe Kalijah Cansey from Pitt gets in there, maybe Jamie Robinson from Florida State gets in there, Robert Cooper, etc. But Clemson's just so much better than everyone defensively, and they have playmakers on the outside this year that weren't really in the mix for them last year. And I think they're going to be able to simplify the offense and make life just easier for DJ. And I think his play will elevate a little bit too as well. And I think they're on the way for a great season because they do have the longest active winning streak in the nation.
Yeah, how long is it?
6 games.
That's kind of hard to believe.
Right? I didn't believe when I saw it either. And then I kind of thought about it. I was like, damn, like Alabama lost the Natty. Georgia lost the SEC championship game.
Didn't Kentucky win like 7 games in a row?
And Kentucky definitely did not start the season 2-3.
I don't know. I feel like that. Or maybe they did lose towards the end of the year then. I don't know. But, I mean, this team is going to be as good as DJ is. Who cares what you do week 1 against Georgia Tech?
Yeah. They got bigger fish to fry. I mean, they got to play NC State and Florida State on back-to-back weeks, I believe. So if I'm them, I'm just looking at that and giving.
I will say though, if DJ is good, this team is going to be really good. This team is going to be up there with the Alabama, and I think that probably be better than Georgia.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way that if he's elite and he is what he was in high school. I mean, when I went and saw him in person when it was his first career start, and I said, "Damn, this kid is him." And I've been kind of dying on the hill ever since. He made me look like an idiot last year, and I'm kind of eating crow now. But I mean, the talent's still there. He's got a cannon for an arm. I don't think I've seen a stronger, just pure cannon that anyone has other than him. Like it's unbelievable how bad he was last year, given all the tools he has. And I mean, if he's what he was, I mean, this is probably the second best team in the nation. I think they got Ohio State beat if he's an elite quarterback.
Yeah, they could. They'd be right there for sure.
But either way, I got them at number 4 in my rankings, and I think they're gonna have a good year. All right, on to like the actual bets. I don't know if you have any written down, but I do have 6 written down. 2 of them I like much more than the rest, but I'll go over them right here. The big one, my favorite one, is Appalachian State money line against North Carolina. The second biggest one, it's Florida State +3 against LSU. And then after that, it's a bunch of like smaller ones, but I still like them. I mean, you gotta play what you like. So I got Oregon +17.5, Arizona +6, Louisville -3, and Boston College Pitt moneyline parlay. Might throw in Arkansas depending on the payout of that and how much I like Arkansas, how much of a gut feeling I get from them heading into the week. But those other 5 are already locked in, ready to go.
Yeah, the only bets that I placed so far, I took Pitt -6.5. It's at 7.5 now. I still like it, but obviously you don't want to bet a bad number. And I'm definitely going to tease Oregon to like 23.5, 24.5, whatever, with Arkansas or somebody, I don't know, Boston College. But besides that, just Utah. That's all I've got in.
Damn. All right. Yeah. All right. So that was mine. You just heard Fields. So we got a bunch of plays in. We'll tweet them out before the week begins. I mean, nothing's going to change with mine. Those are my 5. However,
yeah, I'll definitely have more.
If I like can get a line on it, I don't even know if like this play exists. You'll probably be able to find a way to get it, Field, because I know you like get hard for this shit. But Maryland team total over. They're playing Buffalo. I mean, they should be able to hang 50, 60 on him maybe.
That's like the easiest thing to find.
I don't know. I mean, they're playing Buffalo. Like,
oh, it's one of those added extra bullshit games.
Right? Yeah, I don't even think my book has the extra games to begin with. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? You might not be able to get that.
Actually, you know what? Let me check right now. Yeah, no, there's not even no team totals are even on my book.
They'll come out. They'll come out. Well, you should have some for tomorrow.
None.
They'll be there tomorrow. Then I'm getting latest. But they'll probably come out mornings of and stuff.
Maybe, but if I can get a line on it and I'm liking the way I'm feeling, I will be. I like Maryland team total over. That's gonna be that's like kind of one of those plays that you kind of think of at the start of the year and just like hammer every week.
Didn't Maryland just absolutely destroy Michigan State last year through the air?
In their bowl game, they throttled Virginia Tech like 54-10.
That might be and it was mostly through the air.
Yeah, I mean they're an air raid team. Like this year, they will be throwing the ball. They'll be up there with like Virginia and
Oh wow,
teams like that in terms of
50
like
plus a game.
passing attempts.
Yeah. Poor Tua, or Tua's brother, whatever.
Baby Tua is better than Tua is. Don't at me.
No, don't say that on this channel.
Yeah,
God forbid, you'll fucking disintegrate.
maybe I already am. Maybe I'm in the process of disintegrating. But the Dolphins should draft Talia. Talia is him.
There you
But
go.
yeah, I think that wraps it up. Like I said, my plays: App State money line, Oregon plus 17.5, Arizona plus 6, Louisville minus 3, Florida State plus 3. And if he'll tweet them out, I'll tweet them out. Hopefully, we start the season as hot as we did last year. Last year, we went 10-2 in the later parts of bowl season,
And we smashed all year.
Yeah,
Well,
we didn't start this till pretty late in the year, and we did a good job. I know I did good on Champ Week 2 and throughout bowl season. I mean, it was easy money.
And the bowl record, I know we had some of the same plays that won. So
I don't think we did because I looked it up earlier. Actually, I just went on my account and just looked at podcast, and it was like the first thing that popped up.
I just remember that I thought we were like 17-5.
Maybe it was. I don't know. I'll look it up right now. Actually.
Who knows? But either way, we're back.
We absolutely killed it.
Every Wednesday, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, man. I mean, this week was a little weird because I'm traveling this week, and it's just kind of hectic. Maybe we'll do Thursdays because the other thing this week is that there's good games on Thursday that I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future we'll do Thursdays, but it'll either be Wednesday or Thursday. Yes.
We'll have to figure it out because we can't miss out on no Maction. We got to get the people what they want.
Right.
Make sure we cover the whole board.
Of course. All right, brother. It was a great show. Appreciate it.
We're out until next week.
Yes, sir.